What's up guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're working on Little Monster again. We are gonna put more stuff on it. I think I'm gonna do the pull starter and I'm gonna paint the exhaust, get the handlebars on there and maybe fix on the throttle cable. So we're gonna be very close to starting the bike. I'm really excited to hear the bike with the new carburetor and the new exhaust. But first we need to paint it. The exhaust is very rusty, so I'm gonna have to clean that up, get it all nice and shiny. I'm not gonna get it to a perfect shine, but it should be good enough for painting and it will look absolutely good. Now, as I told you in the previous video, I'm not gonna clear coat it. I'm just gonna paint it black with heat resistant paint. The one that I used for the Brixton exhaust, I still got some leftovers, so I'm gonna use that. I shaken up the cans and they are warming up by the fire while I prep the exhaust for painting. They can heat up a little bit because it's still cold outside, but in here it's like 15 degrees, so it should be enough for painting. So let's just get started, pull off the exhaust, paint it and let it dry. So the exhaust is painted and it looks nice and pretty. Let me show you. Would you look at that? All nice and black, no rust to be seen. It looks like a new exhaust, except for this pitting. Well, it's painted. It will rust again, but for now, it looks pretty good. I put it above the fire, so it will be nice and toasty and I can leave that for a couple of hours and then it will be dry enough to put on the bike. So now let's get on to the next job. Now the next thing that I want to do is repair the pull starter. Here it is, here is the pull starter. Now every time I wanted to start the bike, I always have trouble because if I want to pull on it, it doesn't engage. This thing doesn't come out, it's a little bit stuck. So I'm gonna open it up and see what's wrong with it. And this is actually a throwback from where I used to work because I did this all the time. I had to do this on 7 pull starters a day for like 3 years, so I know what I'm doing. So hopefully I can fix this one. So it looks like all we need is a Allen key to open this up. Now if you do this kind of stuff, you want to remove the tension from the spring. So we need to pull out the cord, hold the middle piece, then get the wire out of there, or the cord. And on every pull starter there's a little slot where you can put in the cord and then you can turn it around, see, like this, and then you can turn it around freely until there's no more tension in the spring. Later up when we close it again, you have to reapply that tension. Be very careful when you do this. There is a spring in there, so you don't hit yourself in the face with a spring. And here it is. So the inner ring is a little bit dirty and there's no lubrication on there. So we're gonna clean every single part, even the spring and this center right here. This is the spring. And then we can reattach it once more and make it all work again better. Let's remove this spring. Now I will degrease everything and clean everything up and then I will return on how to reinstall it again. So I cleaned everything, even the spring and whatever. As you can see from my paper towels, they look really dirty. Just use some degreaser, a painter's brush or a toothbrush to clean it all out, make it all nice and pretty again. Now what we're first gonna do is put the spring back in there. Make sure your orientation is good, because if it's not, then you have to do it all again. Start with the outside, clip it in where it needs to be, and then just slowly rotate it in. Be very careful with this step. This is the part where you can be hit in the face with the spring, so we don't want that. Make sure it's seated all nice and correctly. It's very stressful on the fingers. Just make sure you have a good grip on it. And when the spring is back in there, make sure everything is seated correctly. Push it all down. Now for lubrication, use Teflon spray. You have plastic right here. What can happen with grease is grease will over time harden up and get stickier. With Teflon spray you don't really have that problem. You could think I'm gonna put in Vaseline, but some brands of Vaseline has a product in there that breaks down plastic, and this is a plastic part, so we don't want to do that. So use Teflon spray. Get yourself a spray bottle. It's good enough for your brake cables, clutch cables, everything where there's plastic involved. Use Teflon spray. So I'm gonna just put it all over the spring. You don't have to overdo it. Now let's reinstall it. Make sure it's seated correctly and test it out. Don't worry about the string, we're gonna deal with that later. But as you can see, it looks good. Now put some Teflon spray in the middle. Not too much. Now let's reinstall this piece. Put some Teflon spray on that part. Now get this engagement thing or whatever. Make sure everything is lined up. There's a couple of things you need to line up. Of course, every one is gonna be different. Let's get some Teflon spray in the middle. Get this spring back in here and just reassemble it again. Now to do the cord, just go back to that point where you can pull it out and then just rotate it to the tension. I think 3 revolutions is gonna be good for this one. Depending on the length of your cord, it should be all different. Pull the cord out, see where it stops. For me, it stops right here. So I'm gonna have to do another rotation of the same thing. Get back to that slot, pull the cord out, and from what I can see I'm gonna need 2 more revolutions. Just get tension, and as we can see, when we pull the string it engages. That should be good to put on the bike again. So the pull starter is back on there. I had to put in the ignition coil or the spark plug connector, whatever you want to call it. The thing that makes the spark go, and the pull starter engages now immediately. No more quick pulls. It works nice and perfectly. I'll put the bike back on this stand, strapped it down, and you saw me pull the clutch cover or the clutch housing, whatever you want to call it. It was always painted black and I didn't like that because there's a lot of black on this bike. I mean, the pull starter is black, the end cap of the carburetor is black, the exhaust gonna be black, and the clutch housing will also be black, and I don't want a lot of stuff painted on the engine. So I pulled it out where the clutch engaged. I took off the housing and I put some paint stripper on there, and I think it's gonna look pretty nice. Now it's aluminum, so it's not gonna rust, and it's gonna look absolutely perfect now. It's gonna look good with all metal right here. And when we put on the exhaust, there's not gonna be a lot of black on the engine. So I think that is gonna be better than if it's painted, but we will see once we put it on there. We can always paint it again, but we will see when the time comes when the bike is complete again. Now I'm gonna work on the throttle setup, put the handlebars back on there, connect the throttle cable to the handles, and maybe figure out the choke cable, because there is a choke on this car built into it. So I'm gonna have to sort that out there. It's a separate cable, but we will see when we get there. I also need a lever for that. I think I have a lever upstairs, but I'm not really sure about if that will work and where I'm gonna put it. But yeah, we will see. So let's put the handlebar on there and start connecting everything. So we have throttle again. So as you can see, there is a throttle cable coming from the carb all the way to the throttle itself, and it works. It returns nice and smoothly. Absolutely happy. Now I didn't have to do a lot of work. This is the throttle cable that was on the carb that I used for the RCX. I think ahead and I bought some new, what is this, shifter cable or whatever. I think it's shifter cable. Yeah, it's a shifter cable. I use mainly these types of cables to build my own throttle cables. But on this bike it was pretty easy. The original throttle cable that was on there that we used with the other carb was perfectly enough to run that carb. Why make a new one if you can use the old one? So it looks pretty nice. Not a big of a kink right here. I thought I was gonna run into some trouble with this cable hitting the engine too much, but as you can see, it runs pretty smoothly. Turning won't even be a problem. As I told, there is a choke on this carb right here that I can connect with a different cable, but the cable that I got has a different end on there. Now it will work, but I'd rather use a different style cable or with a different end on it, just to make sure that it's correctly mounted, and I don't want to pull the choke and pull that pin out or whatever. So I'm just gonna look for a brake cable. I think a brake cable would work on this setup, but yeah, we are getting pretty close to a start right now. Little update on the clutch. It looks absolutely amazing. Now I put it in right here. Now why did I do this? I heated up with the heat gun the housing, and because I want it completely sitting down, the clearances are not that perfect. Put some weight on it, but it looks absolutely amazing. As you can see, no more blackness, only pure metal. Also the exhaust looks pretty dry. So I think it's time for some assembly. I'm gonna put everything back together, get a sort of complete looking bike. Still need to work out the brakes. Previous brake lever for the front brake broke off, so I'm gonna have to sort something out. But I can connect the back one right here. Don't know how I'm gonna route it, but yeah, I'm just gonna put some stuff back together, get a nice complete looking bike, and yeah, put the exhaust on, clutch, seat, tank, all that good stuff. So the bike is pretty much in its final form right now. Some things I still have to connect, but I'm gonna do that next week. Now I can't lie to you guys, I went home and I saw that the video file of the last clip was corrupted. So it's a couple of days later, but I'm here. I went back to the shop and now I'm filming the last part of this. That shows dedication to this video. You already saw it in a small recap, but here it is, the bike again. It looks absolutely amazing. I'm pretty happy with this clutch. I'm so happy I stripped off the paint. Look at that. It looks like a proper engine right now. And with that exhaust, absolutely perfect. The carb, everything. Now when I first filmed this video, I didn't find a choke lever, but when I was here preparing for filming this part, I found one, a small one. It's a domino decompression lever. I don't know where I'm gonna put it on the handlebars because, well, the bend starts right here and also right there. What I can't figure out, there were two brake levers on here. Now this one is still in place. This one broke off, but where's the space for it? I mean, there's no space for it. It's right at the end. So I don't really know where I'm gonna put this little decompression lever or what it will be, a choke lever. I don't know where I'm gonna put it, but we're gonna have to figure that out next week. Speaking of next week, this is what I'm gonna do. Of course, I'm gonna connect the lever. I still have to buy the cable. I guess I'm gonna find it in a hardware store or whatever. Then I'm gonna work on the wheels, because the wheels and the brake, they all need fixing. They don't run pretty smooth. I mean, the front one isn't really connected over here. But also what I want to do is remove this disc brake. Now this disc brake is a real pain to get off because of the bolts right here. It's a Phillips head, not a Allen key. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to get that out of there. I think I'm gonna heat it up just like I did with the clutch cover. What I also need to do is clean out the fuel tank because there is still old fuel in there. I'm gonna have to get some new fuel to mix in a perfect ratio, 50:1. I think the fuel that I have laying around here is like 35:1 and I want it 50:1 to eliminate as much smoke as possible, because you know, in a previous video when we start the bike, it was a total smoke show. Smoke everywhere. I had to wear a mask. So as you can see, smoke everywhere. I had to wear a mask because it wasn't healthy running this bike and being in the same room. So I'm gonna have to figure that out. But yeah, we are pretty close to completing this bike. I'm pretty happy with the state right now and the work that we done on it. Now there's a lot of stuff we can still do on this bike. I mean, we have to still paint the frame because I can't leave it like this. It's gonna rust everywhere that I weld it. I'm basically gonna have to strip it down, but first of all, I want to start it, I want to ride it, and of course I want to hear it. I want to hear the new exhaust, well, the old exhaust. I don't know what you can call it. Is it a new exhaust? Is it an old exhaust? Is it a restored exhaust? I don't know what you want to call it. But hopefully, I'm praying to the biker gods, this bike starts up just as good as my CBR does. And I don't have to do a lot of tuning on this bike, but I'm pretty happy with the state of it right now. I mean, I can't wait to work on this bike again. It is so much fun. TIG welding and building the engine and improving it, because we are improving the bike. It is better than before when I first bought it 16 years ago. So that's gonna be it for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like and a comment down below. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter and on Instagram. And if you're not already subscribed yet, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one.